Hi, I'm Mac McCarthy. Hi, I'm Mac McCarthy. Here we go. No contact tips. So to stay with it, right? This happens a lot because people are in no contact. They're like, how do I stay with it? How does it work? How do I not give up on this thing, right? I'm going to get into that today. We also have a couple real stories to unpack. And hopefully you get some knowledge for your own relationship here, right? Go to writemac.com if you want to book a session. If you don't, that's just fine. If you don't find the session useful or helpful, I will give you a refund. I do stand by that. All right, let's get into it. No contact tips. Know your reasons for doing it. Number one, okay? Why are you doing it? That really helps you stick with it, right? Because the one reason that people always come up with is, well, does this work? That's not a reason. That's a question. Is this going to work? Well, how long will it take till this works? That's a question. That's uncertainty. That's uncomfortable. That's anxiety. What I would tell you is, why are you doing it? Jennifer Thomas, I'll get to your question in a moment. Let me get through this, but questions are absolutely welcome right now. And if you're really going through it, we could have you on the show. So I'll answer that directly. Let me just get through these first. Welcome to the live stream. Rob IS, always a pleasure. May, good to see you. All right. So know your reasons for doing it. So like I said, unfortunately, a lot of people, they want to know, will it work? Is it working? Why isn't it working? Those aren't your reasons. Your reasons are, I'm done. Your reasons are, negotiations are off. Your reasons are, their behavior is not gonna change. Things are not changing. There is no other alternative but to walk away, to have your pride and your dignity. Number two, don't do it to get them back. I know that's really difficult because you think, well, all these videos are saying if I do no contact, they'll come back. Possibly. The greatest part of no contact is if they do come back, they're coming back more on your terms, not theirs. And that's been the problem, right? They seem to not care about the relationship. They seem to not care about getting back together. They seem to not want to work on things. So you remove all of you rather than just a little bit of you, right? So that creates value. So don't do no contact to get them back. You want to do no contact, which leads me to number three. I'm done. I'm done. That's when you get to a point where you're done, where you're tired, you've tried something again and again, you've tried to make the relationship work. Some people have been in a breakup, they hook up again, they see each other for 3 weeks, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, but it's really not getting back on track. In that case, at some point, you're going to say, I'm done. Someone cheats on you, you're going to say, I'm done. If you're, you always get to that point at a job or a relationship. And when you get to that point, right, that's when you go no contact. Number four, self-respect and dignity. It's really important to have some self-respect. If you negotiate your self-respect, you're literally peeling layers away from your confidence. So you could be the most confident guy, the most confident woman. You've been in a relationship for 2, 3, 4 years. You make great money. You go to the gym. You do all these great things, right? You're in a good place, right? And you break up, they cheated on you, they want to live their life, they've decided to go away to another state, long distance, the list goes on, whatever, okay? And you're going to beg them back, you're going to beg and plead for them back, and they're like, well, I just don't think it's there. Every time you get rejected by them, every time they tell you you're not good enough in a different way, you just slowly peel back tiers and layers of your confidence, right? And you don't even know you're doing it. You're like, well, I just want to get back and I just want to fight for the relationship. But if you put yourself in that situation for too long, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're out of character. You're creating a new identity that's a bit pitiful, right? So they win when you lose your self-respect and pity. They won. Now, this is another narrative that people think. about who's going to win or lose. Like if I stop contacting them, then they're just going to be happy or this or that. It doesn't matter. What you have to do is get in your head, I'm done. And you're not doing this to get them back. You're doing it to get yourself back. You're going to get up off the mat as an individual and start working on yourself, whatever that is, or just repairing back your confidence. Some people don't have to work on themselves. This is a reoccurring theme post-breakup. Oh, just work on yourself. Oh, just work on yourself. Oh, get to the gym. Not everyone has to do that. Some people are already in a very good place and they still are having trouble. Regardless of what it is, set your mind, I'm going to do this no contact for me so I can set myself free from this attachment issue. Number 6, cold showers. Literally cold showers in a moment, ice cold shower. You really got anxiety. You really want to call them up. Take an ice cold shower. It will change everything. Okay. For a moment. It's a go-to resource. Number 7, walking with music. Take a walk around your block. Take a walk 7 miles, whatever, put some music in, a podcast, and get out of your house. Get out of your apartment. Okay? These are tips to stay in no contact. Number 8, car rides anywhere. Get out of the house. Go for a long drive with music on. Preferably not something sad, but get out of the house. Go take a 3-hour drive to a beautiful waterfall or something. Number 9, dinner with a family member. All of us kind of neglect being with family a lot of times. You know, you haven't seen grandma in a long time. You haven't seen your uncle. Make a point to meet up with them and have dinner. I'm not telling you to pour out your heart about your breakup, but this is a resource you have usually outside of your home watching YouTube videos. Number 10, get a new gym. So if you go to the gym already, get a new one. Okay, because a lot of times you see your ex at that gym or it reminds you of something. And some people are like, oh, but I love that gym. Just get a new gym for 1 month. Okay? Just get one. Everything that you do that's new post-breakup is training your brain that you're in a new dimension, that you're in a new part of your life. And that's why stay away from their hangouts, number 11. If they hang out in certain places, well, what am I going to do? If you run into them at the mall and you see them from far away, there's no shame in you walking the other way and just ignoring them. I've been in that situation. I've been on the other end of it. I've ran into an ex when we were in a gray area and I was out with a woman having lunch that wasn't a date. It was a business thing. This is years back. I saw my ex see us. She was coming into that restaurant and she went and she told her friend and she turned around and left. No, me being on the other end of that breakup, there was no shame in that. That's just avoiding an awkward situation, right? It's better than crying in front of the person, confronting them, yelling at them, whatever. So you have options when you run into people at their hangouts or where you guys usually used to hang out together. You can ignore them. You can look the other way. You can walk the other way. Or how about this? Just stay away from the hangouts overall. If you got a summer cabin and you can work remotely, go to the summer cabin. If you got a family member that you haven't seen for a while, spend 2 weeks with them. Okay? If they call, which everyone asks this question, well, what if they call? What if they call? Okay, you have options. It depends on your situation. So this is where I'd book a live coaching session with myself at writemac.com because your situation, your story, what happened in your relationship will have different answers for that scenario. Okay. If you guys haven't talked for 3-4 months and there's all the smoke's been cleared, then you'll definitely answer that text. You'll say, let's get together. Let's have lunch. Let's talk. Or it could just be really light. If it's only been 2 weeks and they're just calling you up to see if you're okay, I was just worried about you, but you've been in a gray area for a long time, but they don't want to commit back to you. That's not what you want. So I would be extremely short with them or leave them unread possibly. Okay. There's different things to that. It depends on your situation. Your situation's different for that. Bottom line though, is you are doing no contact for you. And if they come back, it's a bonus. And if they come back, let me add this little caveat. It's a bonus, but also you're going to have to make a decision if you want them back. That's the ultimate goal of no contact. All right, let's get into it. Rob IS, how you doing? Jennifer Thomas, if you still are on deck, go ahead and let me know. Do you stay in no contact if your ex is breadcrumbing you with memes? Are you sure the memes are for you? Are you sure? What are they saying to you? If he wants to contact you, the ideal thing would be that he's got the balls and gusto to just contact you. That sounds passive aggressive. If you find it cute and thoughtful, I don't know your relationship. How does it touch your heartstrings? Do you feel like that's an effective way to get you back? What's holding you back from not contacting him would be my question. So if you find those to be positive things, okay, so what are they? And what's holding you back from, why did you guys break up? See, this is the thing. Go to writemac.com and book a session and write your story out, and we'll go all into it, and then I could tell you. But why did you break up? That's an important part of this. All right, I'll give you a few minutes on that. These snats reminds me of high school with a saying like that, and I haven't been in high school in, I don't know, 20-something years. He broke up with me because he said he didn't have time right now and only want to be friends. How long were you guys together? A long distance relationship. Okay. It's ironic because someone just sent in a story today I'm going to unpack. If you want to join the channel right now, audio only. If you don't want to use your video, you can join the StreamYard and we can talk about it right now. If that's not something you want to do, 9 months, the whole time. So then I can ask you, are you interested in coming on? Live advice. Who else does that for free? What? 9 months, the whole time you were in an LDR, or only part of the time? You can use that link and I can bring you on. Like I said, you don't have to be on video. It could be audio only. I'd stay in no contact until he says something meaningful, not just memes. I mean, like I said, saying that, I just need more to the story. That's all. If he broke up with you because he said he didn't have time right now and only one, I mean, is that how you guys communicate, is through these little hidden cute messages? To be honest, if you're in a long distance relationship and that broke, it's harder to get back together if you're going to stay long distance. Every long distance relationship needs a finish line. So he lives in Georgia. He lives in New York. I'm in Georgia. I mean, so the number one thing with long distance relationships is there going to be a point in the next, I don't know, 3 months, 6 months where you live there or he lives, or are you guys just going to continue this for a year? There's got to be a finish line on that. Are you seeing each other once a month or once every week? That's the other thing. How often are you seeing each other? Or, I mean, there's plenty of people I deal with now that are like, we actually never met for 2 years. There's a lot of people that I'm like, so, people get intimate online without penetration, I guess, but, which is fine. Different strokes for different folks, no pun intended. And what's holding you back from being in a, did you guys meet in person before this happened? So, Jennifer, I'll let you give me some more things about it. If you're interested, like I said, that link that says StreamYard, you can click that and it'll let you in the holding room for the live stream. And then if you want to talk about it, like I said, you can go audio only if you don't want your video up. If you want your video up and you're comfortable, totally fine. Just giving you a heads up. All right, I'm going to get into the story I have on deck. Hold on a sec. So all right. Hey, coach, I broke up with my ex 2 weeks ago. I'm telling you right now, I don't think this no contact shit is going to work. Okay, so that's exactly my point on the tips. If you start from a place like, is this going to work? You're already not getting it. You got to be at a place where I'm done. I'm not going back. I've been doing my best to not call, but I haven't heard anything from her. We were together 4 years and talked every day. We were long distance at the end, and she moved to another state to go to school to become a doctor. All right, so bottom line, that's it. Okay, so this is why it's good to write your story out. I've been doing this for over 5 years. I can see the pattern already. The fact you probably thought, I haven't read this completely yet, you probably thought, all right, we'll make it work because, we've been together 4 years. You're living in another state. Love will prevail, and we'll just make it work, and it'll be great. If someone's moving to another state, whether you're 3 years together, 5 years together, 8 years together, there's a good chance it's not going to hold up. All right. She's going to school to be a doctor, where she's going to be with other doctors, other like-minded people. There's a good chance she's going to meet someone else. That doesn't mean your relationship was bad. That doesn't mean you messed up. That just means circumstances are that she's going to be tempted to do that, and you're not going to be there. It's just how it is. There's an identity change. There's a loss of intimacy. You thought you could do it because you've never done it before, right? Like never done long distance, but I think we can work on it. It's if she's going to go to school at a university with like-minded people in her age group, right? And they're going to study together, and you're going to just be on the phone sometimes. She's going to meet someone else if she's half a catch. Okay. We agreed on a schedule to talk daily, which she eventually bailed on and left me many times feeling like, what happened to us? I work in sheet metal and make good money. Good for you. I believe you. I was saving up to move in with her in a year, but 2 weeks ago she pulled the plug and told me this just wasn't going to work, as school was too busy and came first. If she's going to school to be a doctor, I mean, she's not going to have a lot of extra time, right? And that can be true. The fact that you guys had these meetup plans and you're all hot and heavy, and it's 8 p.m. at night and you're ready to talk to her and she doesn't want to talk to you, and you get your feelings hurt, you get blameful, you make her feel guilty, that just pushes her away further. And these are the things that people go into long distance with good intentions. They're like, all right, we're going to make this work. I'm going to do my best. We have Zoom calls. We can do this. And for certain people, it works, but there's an expiration date on it. It gets old. Someone that gets tired of talking online and not getting the cherry on the sundae, not getting the treat that is intimacy, right? And someone's like, oh, we can do without intimacy. We can do without that. All right. For how long? Right. And then there's the thing like, I'm ready to talk right now. And the other person's like, oh, something came up and you haven't talked all day and it's a big deal. And the person who cares less rules the relationship. And the other person who cares so much about getting that call in because they've been waiting all day for it gets really hurt. And the hurt is deeper when it's long distance. I actually got in my car and was going to drive to, all right, sorry, I lost my spot here. I work in sheet metal and make good money. I was saving up to move in with her in a year, but 2 weeks ago she pulled the plug, told me school came first. I actually got in my car and was going to drive to surprise her, bad move. But when I texted her that I was coming to see her, I needed her location. She just left me on red for 8 hours and then told me, sorry, she had class and had a study session with friends. I went off on her, which is the worst possible thing you can do in a breakup like this. I went off on her and told her that it wasn't fair what she was doing. To you, all right, if she's moving a state away to go to school to become a doctor, that does come first, right? You being in sheet metal, right? You're saying she comes before the job. You're going to move from your job, right? And so when you get left on red, it's a lot heavier for you, right? I went off on her and told her that it wasn't fair what she was doing. She chuckled and said, "I'm sorry, it's over." And then she said, "I've met someone else and I didn't know how to tell you." Okay, so right there, people always tell me, "Oh, I want closure." That's your closure. She met someone else. Whether that's going to work out or not work out, you just got to leave her alone now. It's going to be really difficult. It's going to be really hard because this is one of those ones you got blindsided. It's the hardest kind of breakup. Now, with that being said, do not drive there to go see her at this point unless she invites you or she confirms she wants to see you. Period. She's also seeing someone else. You're not even present. I don't believe her. Okay, so that's not accepting reality. Was she not a trustworthy person before? It's too soon since she moved, and I've checked her social media, which she doesn't use too much, and there's no signs of this mystery guy. Well, if she doesn't use social media too much and she doesn't want to rub it in your face, there's a possibility that she didn't want to put the guy on there. So social media doesn't tell everyone's life, right? It's a facade. There were a lot of photos of her with another woman that looked like a tomboy. Well, there you go. Now Sherlock's got a new case to run. This is why. Is this helping you going on her social media? I know when we first met, she said there was a time she thought that she liked women but hadn't explored that. So that's a direct possibility that this quote unquote tomboy is the new person, is the new human in her life. Possible. What I would give you direct advice, stop looking at the social media. It's a complete minefield, booby trap. Every time you look at a picture, it's going to hurt you 10 times worse. Stop the pain. Go on a social media fast. Get out of there. Now she has been very cold answering texts with short answers and the "I'm sorry." Well, you're not accepting reality. She's seeing someone else. School comes first. You guys live a state apart. What are you expecting? What's going to change? So 5 days, I decided to go full no contact and show her what it feels like. So you're coming from a place that you're trying to hurt her, that you're trying to reverse the tables. What you need to come to is you got to get to a place at some point that I'm done. You're not there yet, but it's going to happen at some point. The fact that she lives in another state makes no contact easier in my book. I haven't heard from her, and I'm strongly thinking of catching a flight to see her. As I've seen in a video online, that surprise visits when your ex is long distance can ignite things again. Not in your case. Not when someone's seeing someone else. If they were to say that they broke up with you because they just miss you too much, or if they could see you more often, then things would be different. Maybe that route would work. But the fact that she's saying sorry, she's not answering your texts, she's seeing someone else, no, I don't think it's a good idea. And I think she might call, the police on you. I also don't think this no contact will work, as she's seeing someone else, she says. Okay, this is how it's going to work. You're going to keep your self-respect and your dignity and stop not accepting the reality. That's how no contact is going to work for you in this situation. No contact is going to work for you in this situation because you need to start moving forward, moving on, and accepting the breakup. That's how it's working. So you're like, no, I want it to work to get them back. She's seeing someone else. She's in another state, and she's putting being a doctor first. And surprise, surprise, she might have met someone else that's going to be a doctor too. That's a better match for her. That's extremely painful, what I just said, but it sounds more like reality, right? You just said too, like, I don't believe her. Do not show up where she's at. You'll creep her out, you'll scare her away, and you'll never have a chance again. So the idea that it's not going to work, continue doing what you're doing. Texting, blaming, not believing. Do that until you're done, and then go no contact. Drive down there if you want. and then do no contact. Some people need to do all those things first, and then they're like, oh, now I'm exhausted. Now I want to go no contact. And really what you're doing no contact for is you. It's to bet on you. It's for you to release from this deep attachment of wanting them back. And as a bonus, they might come back. You're also telling them that you value yourself. I believe I got to fight for this relationship and show her I love her. What do you think, coach? Any no contact tips? So I did the no contact tips for this video. I think it's admirable that you love her and you want to fight for the relationship, but in this particular circumstance, she's seeing someone else, she's in another state, and she's not going to be taking your calls or texts to fight for the relationship. And if you're going to fight for the relationship, I think you need to be present. And you were already not present. And the toughest thing about going in a long distance like this is you have all these good intentions, like, oh, we're going to talk every day, and in a year I'll move there and we'll do all these things. And then, every night at 7:00 we'll talk. And usually this is how it works. One person agrees to that, and the other person's like, I'm sorry, work came up. Oh, I'm sorry, I had friends. The person that has a more interesting lifestyle with more temptation usually strays. Okay? And then the other person's like, wait a minute, right? If you're working sheet metal, good job. I think a lot of them are union jobs, good money. You're probably working with a lot of men. That's not a sexist statement or anything like that. I could be wrong. Okay, you might be like, oh no, it's 50-50. I don't know. Your environment's not going to be as tempting to meet someone else probably in a sheet metal industry. If she's going to school to be a doctor where there's females and males of like-minded people, there's going to be much more temptation, especially at a university. Now, that maybe isn't what you want to hear. It's just reality, because I see this all the time. And now she's got an identity change. She went from working to get to school to be a doctor to actually being in med school. Her identity's changing. Okay? Her identity's going to change. So if you first met her and she was just doing her, general ed for college, and you were, you're in sheet metal and those kinds of things, and you live in the same town or city, right? Okay. But now that's the biggest thing that people don't realize. There's an identity change. When you've been together 5, 7, 8, 10 years, the identity change, it's really hard to deal with because you haven't changed. She has. The minute someone goes to a new job, wears a new uniform, goes to a new school, they're going to change. Whether that's good, bad, happy, or sad, they're going to change. And when you've been with someone that long, it's not comfortable. Like, wait a minute. You can't even get on the call with me. You can't return my text. It's a tough one. All right. Social media is such a minefield. You can pause apps and put it to a calendar or when it will give access again. I didn't know that you could do that. I'm sure there's an app. I always tell people to tell maybe one of your best friends or family member to take your password and then give it back to you in 30 days. Because usually if you're fiending to get on that social media and check up on your ex, then you have one more step. You got to call that friend or family member and admit what you want it for. And then they can talk you off the ledge. So, and also make it a social media fast, not, oh, I'm doing it, don't tell all your friends, oh, I'm doing it because of my ex. Because some friends won't get it and they'll be like, oh, that's immature. You're going no contact? That's immature. I've heard that many times. They just haven't been through your situation before. So they just, oh, yeah, that's so immature. Or someone no contacted them and they didn't like it. All right, I got one more on deck. Let me know, Jennifer, or one of you, if you guys want to come on and talk about your situation, you're welcome to come on the channel. The link's up there. All right. Hello, Coach Mac McCarthy. wrote it out fully. I just took my ex back yesterday after a 4-hour talk, and I believe things won't change at all. Okay, well, is that a good thing? And maybe you were the one that was wrong. Every month she has one of two moments where she completely loses it. Could it be that time of the month? Takes all her clothes and pictures from the house and moves downstairs in the basement and says she'll move out soon, but for now, she'll stay downstairs. And then we talk, and she apologized for overreacting eventually. But she's just jealous and constantly telling me I don't care about her or truly love her. I don't show it. I've had other girlfriends tell me they can't read me and I can be cold sometimes. I'm not very affectionate, and when I go places with my girlfriend, I always have this habit of walking in front of her as I'm not with her. I'm a fast walker by nature, but I'm also comfortable as a lone wolf in crowds. All right, so what you're saying is you're aware of the fact of why she would say you don't care about her. My question would be, is she highly affectionate on the other end of that? Because if you were with a woman that's not as affectionate or public affection or likes to walk and hold hands, then she'd find this to be good. So maybe, affection's shown in different ways, right? Love is shown in different ways. There's not one way to show love. And so you're admitting that what she's accusing me of is true. It's not intentional. And other girlfriends have told you, and if you've watched my channel, if other people have told you something about yourself that you care about, then you should maybe look back and go, wait a minute, maybe it's true. The fact that that's deciding if you love someone is not true, I don't think. I've mentioned before, I've not been a highly affectionate person in my life, and that's just how I was raised. We weren't a chummy hug family, okay? And so it's unnatural for some people, and some cultures are like that. So her accusing you of not loving her, you got to ask yourself if that's true. The idea of how that's conveyed is a different question. Now, if you get accusations over and over again, it's going to push you further and further away. The question would be, could you meet her halfway on the bridge and show a little bit more affection? And maybe you'll like it. Ironically, I'm highly social and outgoing, but when it comes to my girlfriend, I don't always show that I care strongly. Okay, so I would just say, have girlfriends in the past said this part also? I just saw this guy in a coffee shop a couple of days ago, and he was sitting with his girlfriend or wife, and they were working on their computers. Then he just got up and gave her this deep, long hug in the booth. I thought maybe they were breaking up, but he emerged smiling as was she. I thought, should I give more hugs? I'll tell you this, it can't hurt you. It's better to probably give hugs rather than making up, after a breakup. And that's one of those things people don't naturally. It's kind of funny because public affection is not my thing. My parents never had it. I don't think I've had any relatives that were like that. My mom always cringed over it. So, and I've had a couple girlfriends that are the same way. But I wonder, are those couples happier? But it's also just how they were brought up and how they show affection. So if you're feeling like maybe I should show more affection in public, I don't think it's a bad idea. Try it. Try to give more hugs. Just make sure you're not awkwardly tense, like you really want to give the hug. I don't like hugs too much, but I can adapt. And this would be an interesting case study, huh? There's actually someone I think online that charges people for hugs. I've seen this before. Not just men. Her accusations are making me think, am I the problem here? On the other hand, if she left or we broke up, I'd be okay. I'd be fine. I know that. What's my problem? Well, there you go. That's what's frustrating her, is she's insecure about you guys possibly breaking up. She senses that you are kind of this stoic character that doesn't mind too much and doesn't show his cards, and that makes her more upset. It might just be that you two aren't a good match. It's like she's not wrong or you're not wrong, but you just don't line up. And as a couple, it's like you're like this instead of like this, right? And you're trying to make it work. And I would just guess maybe intimacy is not the problem. Maybe other things are okay, but being accused repeatedly of not being loved enough is an opinion. So you'd have to ask yourself if you've been in past relationships where this was mentioned, but it wasn't such a big problem. It's one thing when it's one thing that's happening. It's another thing for someone to accuse you of never loving them or never caring about them. It's highly dramatic. It's over the top. It's manipulative. Rather than, hey, maybe she should lead with more affection. The idea that you're walking too fast and you're losing her in places and you're aware that that's just something you have and you're a fast walker and you're quote unquote a lone wolf in crowds. Interesting way to put it. If that's who you are, that's definitely one thing specifically. And I like that you mentioned something specific that you could work on, right? Like that's something that you could walk a little slower. You can make more of an effort, right? Maybe you don't want to hold hands, but maybe you want to, be side by side. So you being aware of that is step number one. BW says, charging for hugs. Well, that's a business. There's one out there. This was years back. I don't remember the lady's picture. I remember a friend telling me about it. But I would assume that she's probably attractive if, Jennifer, if you're still on deck, if you had any more questions about your situation, let me know. Stay away from his hangouts, including the app with that name. Makes sense. It's actually really hard for a lot of people because they feel like they're running away and they're like, well, I like that gym or I like that bowling alley or I like that mall. That's my favorite place. And that's why I say, if you can go to a vacation spot or you can move, allow yourself to do those things, not just because of them, because you want to find a new exciting location to go to. What happens when you're post breakup is you start zeroing in on things like a microscope and acting like you only have one option. And a lot of times when I'm doing live coaching sessions and someone's against no contact or they have that idea that it's not going to work, what I'll do is we'll go through the alternatives. All right, well, what's the alternative? As human beings, we don't like to be told what to do. Like, oh, you have to do that one thing. It's like, all right, well, is there a better alternative to this? Right? And you go through the alternatives. It's like, oh, you want to knock on the door? Oh, I was thinking of writing them a letter. Okay, well, then you really want to write them a letter? When people write long letters to their exes, it's usually for them. And a lot of times they have this habit of making the other person feel guilty, which just pushes them away further. Somehow you think, oh, if I make them feel guilty or sorry for me, I'm pouring out my heart because I saw this in a movie. That'll result in love and attraction. It doesn't. It actually revolts them away in that area, but they can feel sorry for you and answer texts like the guy earlier. I'm sorry. If your ex is saying, I'm sorry to you, do you think that translates to attraction? I want to get back with you? No. Guilt tripping, yeah, it's big. And the funny thing about guilt tripping, it works with certain people. There's certain people that if you guilt trip them, it's like a guilt net. They'll be right into that depending on how they were raised and what they went through in life. And there's other people, they'll just feel bad and they'll avoid you. But the reality is that people are different in those situations, but you don't want to come off that way. The best thing in my book would be accept reality. Like this guy earlier, it's like she's long distance. She's in a pre-med program. You guys had good intentions to stay together. I've seen this so many times. And, love will prevail. She's moving to another state. and she met someone in med school. And now you're researching who she met on social media. Very common, but it's basically like putting small needles in your eye, right? I don't advise it, but people do it. And the problem with social media is it doesn't stop. I've literally had multiple clients email me, emergency, I need to talk to you. I need to talk to you right now. I've had a really bad day. I've been crying all day. No problem. Well, let's see. Check the schedule. We talk about some times if they can't book it on the site. And then we talk, and it's always triggered. They went on social media. They saw a picture or a post, not even a picture or a post necessarily that's that telling. But if they do see that picture or post where they were like, oh, I wish I just had closure. If you see that person with another guy or another woman and they're like this, it's like a tailspin. It's like a helicopter that just got shot down. But the problem is this, it doesn't stop. The web of social media, because what you're doing is you saw that picture and now you dig. Well, now let me look up his profile. Well, now let me look up his friends and family. Let me look up his exes. Let me look up, and you'll be on your phone for an hour and a half with your heart pounding out of your chest, wanting to do something. And the reality is, even though that's on social media, the story still isn't completely clear, because people don't just, well, I wanted to announce to my ex that this is my new girlfriend. They don't say that. It's like, oh no, we're out having dinner, having a good time. You just don't know the whole story, and it's just, it's probably one of the worst things you can do. I would say this, Ben, if you're on right now, I did watch that Black Mirror's episode. I hadn't watched Black Mirrors before. Is it Black Mirrors or Black Mirror? I don't know. But which this sounds like this could be true in the future. This is actually something that I think, and I'm not a futurist, and I don't know all the things that are, going to be in play in AI. But you could record everything that's done, right? Is that every episode of Black Mirrors? Because I just watched the one that you showed me. And so this guy's wife cheated on him, right? So they go to a dinner. They go to a dinner party with multiple people. This guy shows up. His wife's already at the dinner party. I don't know, the guy's coming from a business trip or something like that. And he shows up. His wife's talking, which looks intimately or closely to this other guy. I don't know, 20 feet away. He kind of senses something's up. But the wife comes over to him sheepishly. And then during dinner, you could tell everything that this guy that was sitting at the head of the table and he was holding court, everything this guy did, she was laughing at and whatnot. So this guy could go back with the recorded video and watch his wife making eye contact with the guy, laughing at his jokes. And eventually when the wife cracked and said, yeah, I cheated with him, he goes, all right, pull it up. Could you imagine? Pull it up. Because every moment is being recorded and you can pull it up to look back on it on video. And so he goes, pull it up. And she's like, really? And she's in bed with the, you know what I mean? She's in bed with the guy talking sweet to him. And then the other part of the show, which, great Hollywood Netflix type thing, he's like, when is it that you guys hooked up? And she's like, oh, I don't know. I'm like 2 years ago or this. So they had a small kid and they were having trouble having the kid. So he's like, did you use a condom? And she's like, oh yeah. Pull it up. It's like, could you imagine having the opportunity to do that? You know how many times, if you had the opportunity, this is the crazy thing. Okay, doing what I've done for 5 years, talking to, and this is the thing that people don't realize. I don't just talk to people in America. I've talked to people in Argentina. I've talked to multiple people in Saudi Arabia. That's an interesting one. A lot of rules there. I've talked to Australia, talked to Guatemala. One person from Guatemala. I had Canadians, right? I've had people from all over. This whole cheating thing. Everyone that's like, oh, studies show. Good luck with studies with cheaters. People that have cheated before, why would they tell the truth every time, right? But the amount of that goes on. Now, even the people that, let's say, walk the line, maybe the 20% of the population. If I had to guess, I'd say 70 to 80%. I'm not saying serial cheating. I'm saying at least once in a long-term relationship. Okay, just based on how common I see it. Maybe I'm Looney Tunes. I don't know. All right, but if you had access to every meetup or everything you did, and I'm a pretty observant person about people's body language and their cues. I'm just naturally like that. Always have been. I get it from my dad. My dad was ex-military. My dad's, when you go into a restaurant, my dad always has to sit and look at the door, because he said when he was in Vietnam, like that was a good position to be in case someone came in. I don't know that, but my dad's like that. He's very observant of people's. He's always watching how they act or how they react to things. Now, if you had access to a video of every interaction that you took your girlfriend or boyfriend to, right? Like a dinner party, a restaurant, how many times would you catch them checking out someone? Or just giving a little bit of a tell that they like someone? Not that they're going to cheat, but you'd be driven nuts. Because let's face it, let's be honest, even when you're in real love and maybe, you're going to meet other people or be in situations where you find someone attractive, right? It's human nature. If you can go back with a camera every time that happens, oh my goodness. Or, oh, you cheated, pull it up on the screen. Oh my goodness. Unfortunately, for a lot of people that get caught, they, I think the hardest thing right now is when people catch the text, right? So the text, oh, I just had someone a few days back. He's like, oh, I didn't know what it was. I checked her phone, and the guy was like, oh, I miss you, sweetheart. I miss kissing you. Like, it was evident, right? But I said, was there any video on there? He goes, no. I go, well, that's lucky. Because there's some people I know that there's video, right? There's video on there. Imagine that, and you just keep watching it again. I actually had other clients too that watch videos of their exes. So it's interesting how video doesn't get you out of the past, right? Technology good? Cheeky videos. That's a word we don't use very much in the States, but I learned it over here. I've been called cheeky a few times. I'd stay in no contact. He says something meaningful, not just okay. So I was thinking about this day. Going on trips helps. Meet new people, see new things. You don't have time to think about it next. Absolutely, Ben. I'd say one thing that I've told clients to do. Not a lot of them do it. If you can do some kind of volunteer work where it's not about you. And you're that kind of a character, even if you're not that kind of a person, definitely do volunteer work where it's something you want to do. Like if you like pets, whatever. But doing some really good volunteer work at the right foundation or something like that, it's chicken soup for the soul, not the book, but actually really helps you feel better. And when you're feeling down, and maybe you'll meet someone. All right. Oh man, Ben, if that was the episode was a trip, you'll think about it for the, if that was legal or that was going around now, man, it would be one of the hardest things post breakup because you'd be going back through every moment you were with your ex and you'd be catching things like their eyes or their eye roll or oh man, I think it would be pretty harsh. Yeah, Ben, exactly. What's up, Funswa? Exactly. It's really underrated. And really, as simple as it sounds, when you're obsessed with yourself, that's when you're the most unhappy. Really is. When you're not doing something nice for other people. I think it's hard now for some people. And there's nothing wrong with this. There's less people that have kids, I'd say. And so when you don't have kids, you don't have that built-in charitable work of living your life for your kid, of doing things for your kid. You know, someone goes to a shitty job, they're like, I'm doing it for my kid. So, you know, remember years back, there was this guy I worked with and he was just obsessed with like making money, and it was just over the top. I was like, what are you doing it for? You know, like, because he wasn't a big brand name person or big cars. And he was like, well, I have one daughter. And that was his mission, just to make her life better. Sometimes that's the built-in one. So volunteer work, though, man, you do anything like that, kids. I worked as a teacher at a charity for almost 2 years. I mean, it was tough. I got paid. It wasn't completely free, but it was very low pay. And it was life-changing. It was good. It was a really good experience. Made me understand kids better too. It's like everyone goes, oh, I like kids, or I get kids. You try teaching kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade to kids where English is their second language. Man, because you can read like body language, the way you have to communicate. You get 30 or 40 of them in a room. Man, it's different than just being like, oh, I'm good with kids. I'd come home from that job, I'd be like, I was done. I was tired. I'd go to sleep early. It's a lot of energy, a lot of fulfillment, though. Hey, bud, this is a structured live or just random chat? Well, it usually is structured in the beginning. Oh, number 30? No. I don't know what you mean by that. It starts out structured, but sometimes we just talk about random things after a while. But I'm going to have to go eat pretty soon. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's what that, man, if you ever were a teacher in your life for a little while, like I was, maybe 10 years, it's so different when you got 30 or 40 and you realize like just personalities are different. But the crazy thing about teaching, that when you get a new term, is no matter what the topic or what you're teaching is, the class will have a different dynamic, because like it's like people that are ignorant, which means you don't know what you don't know, and they're like, oh, teachers are lazy, oh, teachers are this, oh, teachers are that. You do not know fucking clue of how it is, because one term you could have a great class and it also has to do with the leaders, even if they're like 8 years old, there's little leaders in the class that people follow. And then there's a little nationalism in that group. There's a little it's got its own personality to the class. So you can have one term where you're like, oh, I love it. You'll like different classes because of the way they are. And the leaders kind of run the group. And the crazy thing is you can have the same, let's say you're teaching, 7th grade. You can have the same class that you're teaching with different group of kids, and it'll be a completely different dynamic. If you get some bad kids in there that don't want to be there, that are hell raisers, that are creating problems, that are smart asses. By the way, I was a smart ass, fully recovered. And I was a mouthy little kid. But when you're the teacher, it's always different. Every new term, every class has a different heartbeat. It's really interesting. So everyone just assumes like, oh yeah, teachers just do this, teachers do that. I dare you. If it's not, you got to have a special way about you to even put yourself in that position. Because I remember when I was doing this training course, and this Irish guy, he was a carpenter, really nice guy, and he was he had a Thai wife, and he was gonna move her. He's like, oh, yeah, mate, I was just gonna take the course and see how it goes, and maybe I'll teach for a little while, teach for a couple of years. I've been doing a little bit of carpentry. It's been good, mate. Well, I'll try it out, mate. Give it a try. 2 weeks later, he's like, I'm gonna quit. He came back to me. He's like, did you want to get a beer tonight? I think I'm gonna quit the class. I think I'm done. I said, well, just complete it, man. You already did. Yeah, I'm not really a teacher. So the kids got in front of the class, and they, I told them to settle down and sort some things out, and they didn't listen to me. And I thought to myself, I'm just going to walk out. I'm a carpenter. And sometimes these are the people that are like, oh, teachers are lazy. Oh, teachers are this. It's like, dude, it ain't for everyone. This is why I like doing live streams, because when I'm a teacher, I'm going to engage you. I'm going to call on students. I don't wait for you to raise your hand. It's like, Ben, I got a question for you. Go through it. But like, nah, man, it's 30 different persons you have to manage and wrangle, herding cats. No thanks. It's not just that. It's like, kids have bad days too. Sometimes you got a kid that's all of a sudden, especially when I taught university, like they're off. Like you got to ask them, is something wrong? Something going on? Then they have something back at home. It's not you. So it's funny because you just get one class that has some kid that's got it up his ass that he wants to like mess with you, or he wants to, he's smarter than you, or he knows how the thing's supposed to be done. By the way, when I would have a student like that, I would have no problem. No problem. I'm not going to be pushed around. It's kind of funny. But there was I thought about showing it. They're getting really strict on YouTube because I've gotten this, like when you show videos, that it's a copyright thing. But there's a video I wanted to show on the channel about this student. I don't know if it's on YouTube too. Maybe I'll do it today. Let's see here. Teaching helps you be more perceptive, sure. Also, like you, more patient, more compassionate, more understanding, I would say. Because you're like, in the beginning of the term, you don't know anyone. You kind of have your preconceptions or whatever you want to call it, just as a human being. And then after you get done with that term, you got like a built-in little unity with them. You know what I mean? Even the kids that are a little smart ass or this or that, like you've built a rapport. You have some kind of level of care. Um, kind of like what I do with coaching. It's the same thing. Someone doesn't talk to me for 2 years after we did. People will come to me for a month sometimes, and they'll book a session every week, and then you don't talk to them for 2 years. But then when they come back, the connection's deep. I remember everything. So it's a privilege. It's a privilege. Someone said on a live stream recently, do you think 100 5-year-olds could take out an adult? And I said, yeah, but they wouldn't use a punch. It would just be whining and crying, which is the biggest manipulation tool in the world, probably. It's like, if you think about it, like kids, straight for the kneecaps. Let me just cry. Right? Let me, if that works, let me scream. Hundred of them screaming and crying, they wouldn't have to throw a punch. It's like, you guys win. All right, let me just review these no contact tips really quick. No contact tips, no reasons for doing it. Know your reasons for doing it. By the way, I did spell no wrong. It's funny, as a teacher for years, my grammar's bad sometimes. It's so funny. I don't mind though. So I wrote, have you guys ever done that before, where you spelled the word the N-O instead of K-N-O-W? And there's some people, when you have a channel or something, they love that. These are the kind of things that you'll get a bunch of comments afterwards like, oh, it's spelled K-N-O-W. I think I had a post on IG, and I wrote, be weary, W-E-A-R-Y, be weary of generalizations. And someone wrote in the post, please help someone spell check this W-A-I. Like, it's like, people love that stuff, right? No reasons for doing it. So know your reasons for doing it. Shouldn't that always be the case in anything we do? Don't do it to get them back. I'm done. Self-respect, dignity. They won. Cold showers, walking with music, car rides anywhere, dinner with a family member, new gym, stay away from their hangouts. If they call, okay. That could be a poem by Bukowski. Be weary. Be wary. People love that, though. You spelled this wrong. Thanks. Appreciate it. Did you have a real comment to make, or? Be weary. Be weary. It's just Coach Mac McCarthy on IG. I definitely have had the situation where I haven't had many because I've had a girlfriend, right? I'm someone that likes to have a girlfriend, so I haven't been single for very long. I don't ever talk about my relationship because, to me, with what I do, there's some other coaches I've heard talk about that. I've talked about past relationships, but not current ones, because it's never good when you're dealing with breakups or oh, mine's so great or mine's so bad. I lose credibility if I said mine was bad. If I said it's so great right now. I've heard clients like, oh, my wife's, or other coaches, my wife and I do this. My wife and I do this. This guy, Tom Blue. This is one of those things with influencers that have big groups now. They do everything. Oh, I'll give you advice on relationships. I give you advice on making money. I give you advice. And this one dude constantly references how great him and his wife do it. It's like, what an asshole. His name's, and the reason why is because got a weird name. It's like Tom Blue. The reason why is like people are going through something, and you're not going to share. You're really not. You got your wife. You're not going to really tell us the bad parts. Everyone's got some things in their marriage. By the way, he's like a billionaire, so that helps everything. But he does all these posts on relationship stuff, and he models him and his wife. Me and my wife do this. Me and my wife do that. It's like, you want to tell us any of the other stuff you and your wife do? Seems like people like that too, like Gary V or Tom Blue. You're like, do you guys ever have time for your relationships? I mean, when's the last time you guys, got intimate? I have had dates after being a coach, and one thing that comes up sometimes if when you ask what someone does and you mention what I do, because people, regardless of the channel not being a huge channel, it's just the space it is, relationships, breakups. Sometimes that makes people cringe. Sometimes it makes it, but the question usually is, so what do you do? So what do you do when you have problems? Like and I'm like, so they want to know, like, you think you're perfect about it? No. But I would say, let me think about that for a minute. One came to mind. I don't know if I want to share that one. I would just say that went out to dinner. I didn't know her that well, so we just met at dinner. This is one of the few times I did a dating app thing. This was years back. And PW's like, go for it. So I met her. Like I said, I've had meetups on a dating app maybe 3 or 4 times. I think maybe 2. I don't know. I always meet women outside of that. So this is years back, maybe before COVID. Met up, didn't look like the picture. Okay. Happens, right? Had a half shirt on, with more than a little bit of a belly, which was like surprising, because it was like, it's okay that you have a little extra weight, but like, why are you wearing a half shirt? And then told me, like, I just got back from the gym. I'm like, okay. Cool personality. Like, we had a good talk, at dinner. She escalated to like, I want to go back to your place. We need to stop and get something to drink. So I was like, all right, you can come over. I could have ended it at the end, but like I said, we were talking good. Came over, we hooked up. I won't give you the details of that, but we hooked up, and it was okay. Wasn't great. And the next morning, it was like when you wake up and you're like, I didn't want to go get breakfast or like hang out. So, she did want to hang out. And then I was like, I got work to do today. It was like a Saturday or something, which I can work anytime I want. But I was like, I got to do this, I got to do that. And I had some things to do, but I didn't have to do them right away. She kind of got the picture. But we hung out for a little bit in the morning. And then when she left, I got this long text that was something to the effects of, if you really want to be with me, let me know, because I really like you. I'm really into you, kind of a thing. But if you don't have the right intentions to stay with me, and you didn't want to get breakfast with me this morning, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, one day, one time, that's why you don't hook up on the first date sometimes, right? Someone gets the impression that it's like, you're all in, they're all in. So it was, if I could read the text, which I my memory's really good, but that particular one, it was just guilt. It was just guilt ridden. Like, if you're not gonna, this or that, I really like you. I want to see you. Da, da, da. I was like, oh my goodness. So that one was pretty bad, I'd say. But the worst ones were in my early 20s for sure. In my 20s, oh my goodness. I just, to be honest, I haven't gone out on, like Clutch, the guy from, he comes on sometimes from Love Advice, or I think he changed his channel name. Like, he was a pickup artist for 6 years in that community. But me, I've always had a girlfriend or a girl I was seeing, so I didn't do these, like, I don't know how many dates these guys go on. But yeah, early on, I've talked about some of these before though. Early on though, there was a few. There's a few bad ones for sure, but they're the best stories, right? I think the worst situation I've ever been in, I've probably already told this, Ben, so it might be redundant for the other people, but let me know if you guys want me to mention this one. It was the worst. That was the worst. I don't even know if that would be considered a date. It was, I was like 20, I think. It's 22 years ago. That's crazy. And yeah, I mean, I just didn't, like I said, I've had a girlfriend. I think Corey Wayne calls it serial monogamy. So I've had gaps, but anyways, let me get to this story. Okay. So I've told it before, I think. So Rob's going to be like, I know this one. But, so me and this girl were talking online when online was, the AOL. That's how old I am. So I was maybe 19 or 20, right? And you could do the chat. She grew up in my area. I knew her through mutual friends from high school. But like I said, it was 19 or 20. And I was actually at the time talking to another girl that would become my girlfriend. So we were doing really well. We were dating and she became my girlfriend. But this girl I was talking to online, and she had went away to school on the East Coast to a big university, like a really good school. And before she left, we had hung out a couple times, but we, like, it wasn't going to be anything I thought would carry on. That was my first time using the internet like that. So we would do like a chat and we would talk just like we do on the live stream and flirt or whatever. There was no camera or anything like that then. It's crazy how different it was 20 years ago, right? 22 years ago. And so she invited me to go to her town on the East Coast, which was a big city. I don't know why I don't want to say what city it is. And she had an apartment and she's like, stay with me. So I was like, all right, I'll stay with you for a week. And it was a big deal for me because at the time I had I never had flown to the East Coast like that. It's like only 20. I'm like, all right. I was going to stay with her. The other girl I was dating at the time, I told her I'm going to go hang out with this girl. Anyways, go over there. First night's pretty good. We hang out. We stay together. And then the next morning, I didn't wash a cup. Correct. Like I had a glass of milk or something like that. And I just rinsed it out with water, not soap. And she was like, oh my God, you don't even rinse it out with soap. Da, 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 da. And just like got lit up about this. And I was just like, I was totally caught off guard. And we were in the house. I'd never lived with a girlfriend before at 20. So I was just like really uncomfortable, both of us. I was like, sorry, I'll use soap next time or whatever. And she just kept going with it and she couldn't calm down. And she was like, and I was like, all right, I'm going to go for a walk. I'm a mellow. I like to joke around. I like to be carefree. So for me, it was just like, okay. So I walked out and that was like the first episode of crazy, right? But the moral of this story, eventually I'm gonna get to the end. So that day was like, okay, we went and met her friend for lunch. We hung out in that city. We went around. And it was really cool because that city was a place that I wanted to go to. Right. And there was a lot of college students in that city. So there's people walking around, you know, like whatever. It's all new to me. So we hung out that day. And I skipped. There was another part of the story too. She had a hamster. Right. So I was like, all right, whatever. While we were in bed, she was like letting the hamster loose. And she was like, oh, don't worry. Sometimes he bites, but it won't hurt you too much. And I was like, I don't want him in the bed. Like, I don't want to play with him. And she was like, why? Come on. What's wrong? You don't like, come on. It's like, I don't want to play with the hamster. You just said he bites and you're like letting him loose around here. Come on. She's like, oh, wow. Like, what are you getting so upset? I'm not getting upset. I don't want to play with the hamster. I don't want him in the bed. I don't want to get bit by him. Like, I like pets, cats, not really. Dogs are cool, but hamsters, keep them in the cage, man. Right? This like upset her through the day. And she was like petting the hamster. Mind you, I'm staying there, so I didn't have anywhere to go. Right? Like, I just planned to stay there. Bad fucking move, man. Because I would have just left, right? Like, oh, we didn't get along. I'm stuck there. This is my place to stay. I didn't really have a lot of extra money to go get a hotel in this big city, right? Now I would just go get I'd just go get a room or something. I'd be done. See ya. And then, I think 2 nights later, we went out with her friends for like sushi, and her friend had this one of her friends brought this other guy there, a really cocky dude that was older, that worked in the stock exchange in New York, and was just like hot shit. And it just made me uncomfortable because the dude was like, we just didn't vibe from the get-go. Not a fight or anything, just right. And he was older than all of us because all of us were in our early 20s. I was 20, and we went out to eat sushi, and I didn't know how to use chopsticks at the time, and I had never eaten like sushi. So I was a total train wreck. I was the only one that didn't know how to do sushi. I was uncomfortable. I knocked over a drink. And then I was all like uncomfortable. And this guy's, this fucking kid, man. Shit, man, you're a fucking mess. You're a fucking mess, right? Like, and it just made me even more uncomfortable, you know? And I'm in this situation. I'm like, fuck, I can't leave. Right? Have to go back to her place. Just felt awkward. And then they were like, oh, let's all go out dancing. And the girl I was with was like, Mac doesn't dance. I was like, I'm not saying I'm a great one, but I'll go out. Guy across the table was like, I fucking merengue. I fucking tango. I was like, I don't do those dances. Like in my head. And he's like, oh, you don't fucking merengue? I'm like, no. Again, awkward. Couldn't leave. It gets better, Ben. Are you ready? Rob's already heard this story. It gets better. It was a week. These are just the first couple of days, two or 3 days. So then we like that night or the next night we were coming home. And I forgot exactly what happened, but she had another episode. Come to find out, this is 22 years ago before everyone had anxiety or depression. No offense to people that have that now or identify with that, but like it wasn't popular to go around telling people, oh, I have depression. Oh, I suffer from anxiety. 22 years ago when I was 20, no one said that shit. Is anyone else on the live chat with me on that? Like it just wasn't a common thing. Okay. It wasn't like she was, I think, seeing a therapist, and I think she had some issues with anxiety or something else. Right. To me, that was like another language. That was like speaking Chinese to me. I was just like, oh, you have something like that? Whatever. I fucking lived it for a week, dude. And I was, I didn't know what that was about. So she, like, something happened. So something happened, right? So that night, I forgot what it was that set her off or triggered her. We go sit on like a park bench, and she just starts crying. And I'm just like hysterical crying. And I didn't do anything bad to this girl. I didn't say anything bad. I didn't say anything wrong. And guys are walking by. It's like a college area, like fucking asshole. Like the way she was crying, she had like snot coming from her, you know, like hysterical crying. And everyone's walking by like, what? Like looking at me, like some dudes are like, she okay? And I'm like, console. I'm like at ground zero, like, what just happened? Like, I'm the one that looked like an ass at sushi dinner. I'm the one that knocked over a drink. Why are you crying, right? Like, what's going on here? I didn't know how to react. So I just stayed calm and kind of, I wasn't a coach yet or anything, right? So we ended up going back to her house, like consoled her, calmed her down. Like I said, I don't even know what set her off, but hysterical crying in public on a park bench. Get back to her house. She explains, you know, like sometimes I get like this and that. I ended up just sleeping on the floor. I remember, because it was just awkward energy. It was weird. It was uncomfortable. We went the next day somewhere to go eat. She was with friends. She calls this guy over that she knew, and the guy comes over and kind of like sweet eyes her, and like they're talking. Completely ignores me and just carries on their conversation, doesn't introduce me to the guy. And the guy's like, oh yeah, maybe we should go out sometime. And he's just looking at, like, I'm just sitting there on the sidelines like, couldn't leave. Right? So went back to her place, and I went outside, and I was talked on the phone outside her door. She was like I don't know, it's one of those houses where they have multiple rooms, like an old house. And she was at the top. So I just went out in the hallway, and I had a friend that was in New York, and she wanted me to visit her. She was at Seton Hall, and she was like, oh yeah. And I'm talking to her. So dumbass me, I start telling the story of all these things that the girl was doing, but I'm whispering. I'm like, yeah, it's been crazy. It's like, she's just, you know, she just started crying on a park bench. It's hysterical. I don't know what to do. She flipped out on me about the milk. She flipped out on me about, she's got a fucking hamster she wants to put in the fucking bed. And my friend's like, well, just come over here, you know, like, just come over here. Like, you can come over here and come visit me. And I'm like, yeah, I would, but I don't have the extra money to pay for the thing, whatever. I only got 2 more days. Swear to God, the door opens up, and she's like hell-bent exorcism. Like, you talking shit about me at my own home? Are you talking bad? I was like, no, I was just talking on the phone with my friend. Yeah, I'm talking about what was going on. She's asking me, she's like, so you want to leave? You want to leave? And she's screaming, like hysterical, crying. Again, didn't even do something that bad. Like I said, maybe not, you know, talking on the front. And I wasn't divulging everything, right? Like, ends up, she's like on the floor, like in a, just crying. I've never been around someone that cries so much. And I just was like, it's okay. I'm sorry. It's okay. I'm sorry. That night I was like, I don't have anywhere to go. Can I just, and she was like, get out. And I'm like, I think it was like 12 o'clock at night. Right? It's like 12. I'm like, I don't have anywhere else to go. I'll sleep on the floor. Maybe because one of her friends liked me. I was like, maybe I can go. No, you're not staying at my friend. I'm like, I only have 1 more day. It's like, I don't want to go get a hotel right now. Total bad situation. Moral of the story is, I knew her a little bit. Don't go stay with people. Don't make that your plan. Now, especially if you don't have extra money to get your own place or a credit card. I've actually had clients tell me before, oh, I'm going to meet this person. I'm like, make sure you have your own place. But that was the worst situation I've ever had. That was bad. But now it's a good story, right? And it just caught me out of left field because like mental health and those kinds of things. And when I came home, everyone was like, because we had similar friends groups. They're like, oh, you guys hooked up? Oh, how are you guys doing? And I'm like, one of her friends knew because her friend was like, yeah, I know how she is. I was like, thanks for telling me. It is. But like I said, being in her place, it was like you're walking on eggshells, but like I said, I would just leave. But it just goes to show you the perspective that if you guys could see when you're on a park bench and some chick's hysterical and you just assume that the guy did something. I was like, I can't even, my memory is great. I don't even remember what it was. It was just one incident after another that was just, I had the same thing happen on a second date. A girl bawled at a brewery saying she needs to focus on herself. And this was too much. Shouldn't laugh. Too much pressure. Everyone thought I was an asshole. Made her laugh once. Paid the bill then. And then walked to the bathroom. I came back. She told me I was so lucky she didn't leave. I was like, yeah, so you know what's crazy is people live in their own worlds, right? She's like, oh, you're so lucky to you're so lucky to be with me. I mean, now if I was in that situation, I'd know how to handle it, you know? I would because the way I was reacting to her in certain situations was like, what's wrong with you? You know, like no compassion, no listening to what's going on. Isn't that crazy though? Like Ben, in the public eye, everyone's thinking, oh, this guy's a jerk, right? And you're like, no, man, I'm actually being good by just hanging out and listening. The other one I've told people about before is that I don't even know if it was a date, but this girl I worked with really liked me. I was like 19. She'd be like, "Oh, can I get a ride? I don't have a ride home." And I was like, "All right." And then she like on the ride when we got home, when we got to her house, she like made an aggressive move for a kiss, and we kissed for a little bit, right? And I was like, "All right." And I was meeting my friends afterwards. I think she thought we were gonna like after that it'd be like, oh, you know. And I was like, I'll see you later. I was like 19. And then we went out one more time. And I've told this story. At 19, I was making, I don't know, $6 or $7 an hour. I think I was in college. And I was in junior college, right? But I was making, you know, and we went to Fridays. And to me, that was like kind of expensive. And I remember she ordered fettuccine Alfredo or something like that. All right, no problem. She ate like 2 bites and like a bite of the breadstick and was like, oh my God, you want to wrap that up and take it home? No, I don't want it. It wasn't good? No, it was okay. I just don't eat leftovers. Done. I was like, I grew up on leftovers. Come to find out, there's a lot of people that don't eat leftovers. I was pissed because I was like, you only ate 2 bites? I think it was like, you know, $12. That's how I felt at the time, right? It would just totally turn me off. It's like, take it home and give it to the dog at least or something, man. And then I think one more time I met up with her, and she had an ex-boyfriend that was like older because we were 20. Like I said, I was 19. I think I was 18 or 19. She was maybe 19 or 20, 21. And when she got aggressive with me, when she broke up with this boyfriend, cut a long story short, we meet up, we hang out. It's like at a park or something for a walk. I don't know what it was. And I get back home and she's like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. What's going on? She's like, oh, my ex was watching us. Don't worry though. It's like, done. I've seen the guy. I'm like thinking about fucking America's Most Wanted stories where someone ends up in a fucking marsh. I was like, I'm done. Like, she's like, oh no, don't worry about it. He just said he saw us. You know, he was watching us. He was in the car while we were walking. I'm like, she's like, don't worry. She's like, if you want, we can go on a trip together. Right? We can go on a trip together to Miami. And she started bringing up like, oh, I'm going to take you to Miami. I have family there and I'll pay for the trip. I was just like, what? But you just said that your ex-boyfriend was watching us go for the walk and he was in a car like waiting. She's like, yeah, don't worry about it. I just want to know like if he confronted you yet or anything. In my head, I'm like, I ain't fighting over this relationship. You're not getting me involved in this and that, hon. I was, and man, what are you scared? No, I'm not scared. It's just that I'm not going to start a relationship like this. And yeah, I am a little bit scared. The guy was a big guy, but he was also like, he came into the store afterwards that I worked at and he, walked around, did his whole like staring me down. It's like, don't worry about it, dude. Like we've never even hooked up and don't even really like her. She can't even, take her out for a nice meal. Can't even eat 2 bites. Sends it back. I don't need drama like that at 19. That's funny. It's a different thing if it's like, oh, this is my girlfriend, or I've been seeing her for 6 or 8 months, and some goon boyfriend comes out of the cuts. All right, well then maybe you have to step up, but not off Jump Street. No. I don't blame the guy. I don't know what she was telling him. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if she was playing him along the way, but I just felt, I wasn't that interested anyways. Those are the ones that like someone gets involved in those. Like I said, man, hey, don't worry, bro. It's all you. I mean, it ended up being okay because I worked there for a little while longer, but she left. She left that store soon after, but you look back and like all the stuff that's on the internet about dating and finding red flags, none of that was out. No one read book when I was in my 20s. No one read a book on dating. Excuse me? He was watching us? That's what I said again? Yeah, he was in the car in the parking lot. I was like, what? Trying to think if there's any other ones. There was another girl I dated before I moved to Thailand that was first dates, like talking about kids. Wow, you live in a really good area. It's a good school district here. I was like, yeah, okay. And I knew this girl for a while through friends. And then she just kept talking about her ex-boyfriend in first name, not like her ex. It was like, she kept saying the guy's name over and over again, like I knew him. And it was just like, I had been at a breakup. I was like, fuck, man, this is bad. And I wanted to make it work. She was cute, and I know she liked me. She could talk, though. But, man, that was one, like, I wanted it to be okay, but I was like, oh, man, you're just too annoying. I remember just being in the car, like, again? She mentions this guy again? Like, are you even single? I was on a date and her ex-husband showed up. There you go, bro. I've heard some pretty big ones from friends where there's a guy I know that he was with this girl, like it was his girlfriend. Met her at an optician clinic, I think, or something like that. And they were together for, I think, like 8 or 9 months. He said they weren't living together, but he stayed at her house a lot. And one day he comes out of the bedroom and there's a guy having breakfast. Like the girlfriend had made him breakfast. And some guy's sitting in the seat having breakfast as he comes out of the bathroom. And he's like, who are you? And the guy, and my buddy's from Wales, so he's got a little bit of an accent too. He's ex-rugby player. He's like, who are you? And the guy's like, I'm her husband. I've been away. And my buddy goes, and he's a tough guy. He goes, is that true? He looks at his girl and his girlfriend. She goes, and he goes, I'm going to finish my toast. I'm going to finish my coffee and my eggs. All right. We can talk a little bit after that, but I'm going to finish my eggs and my toast and my coffee. I said, you said that? And he's like, yes, I did. And he goes, when I got done with my toast and my coffee and my food, I asked him one more time. I said, do you want to be with this guy? And I was like, the guy was just standing there? He goes, no, they went off to the other room, like arguing. And I finished my breakfast. Real proud guy. And then he goes, I took the key, because he had her key to her house after she said, no, I'm going to stay here with him. And he's like, I threw it in. They had a pool, I guess, like for a complex or something. He's like, I threw it in the pool and I just left. And I was like, you really were able to control. That's one of those ones where you're like, really? You're really able to control yourself and just go, yeah, I want to finish my breakfast. And the guy was like, okay. I was young, 21. Maybe she ran out of the place. And her ex-husband started telling me how she messed him up. I said, I don't care, and I'll never see this girl again. Man, I haven't had one of those situations. I mean, they happen. There was a guy when I was back in California. I went out with my nephew, who's now 22. That's interesting because you look at my nephew. I look at him like a son. Like, hey, don't drink too much. Hey, like, be careful over there. It's like, oh, I'm fine. I don't go out drinking very much anyways, that much anymore. But we had some beers and stuff, playing some pool. And this other guy came over, and he was kind of hanging out with us. He was from somewhere else playing pool. And my nephew was drunk, and my nephew's buying this guy drinks. It's like, stop. This guy keeps accepting the drink. And I say, hey, man, you going to buy a round? And the guy goes, oh, yeah, I get it, man. I get it. I'll get the next one. He ended up being a cool dude. Because I was just like, is this guy just fun transient trying to get free drinks here, hanging out? Anyways, cut a long story short. So he had a story, because this was a college town area, kind of a wild college town area that we were at. And he was saying that he went into a bar at happy hour like 5, 6 o'clock. And he said this girl just was on him right away. And I wouldn't say this guy was like the best looking guy. It wasn't bad, you know what I mean? So right there, I'm like, okay. And he's like, she's all over him. And he goes, I bought a couple shots, this and that. And she goes, let's get a taxi. And he's like, all right, I'll get a room. Let's go. So he's like, I got in the taxi. I took her with me. And some dude tries to jump in the taxi with them. And she's like, no. And the dude gets out of the car and leaves. And he's like, that was weird. I thought, is that your friend or something? She's like, don't worry about it. So he said they go to the hotel. They have, extremely good intimacy, whatever. Of course, he was a superstar in the bedroom, his story. And he said the next day, she's like, yeah, that guy that tried to get in the taxi, that was my husband. But we have an open relationship, and I like to bang randoms. And he's okay with it, but you got to pay for the taxi. What would you do in that situation? He's like, I was all right. I was like, yeah, I don't know if I have enough for your taxi, but yeah, all right. Talk about a husband that doesn't wear the pants in the family. The work stories are the best. I said, I've said to people that a janitor at a hospital has a better chance of dating a doctor than a guy that puts on his app he wants to date doctors, because the environments you're in, hospitals are one of the biggest ones. It's like people that work with doctors and nurses. I've got a bunch of clients that like they're having affairs all the time. You're spending more time with those people that you work with than your actual partner a lot of time too. But yeah, and then they'll meet in like a closet or like a side room or something. It's common, man. And every place, the funny thing about stories, right? It's just what you tell me it is. When you have a good memory like myself, some other people have a good memory and someone's telling a story and you're like, you didn't tell the same story last time. Have you ever had that? Someone tells some story where they were a superstar or they were like so great, and then they tell the story a little bit different the next time. I mean, when that guy told me that, I think he's in his late 30s living in that college town. And the funny thing, he's like, hey, bro, because I was just visiting my family, my parents, actually. He's like, hey, man, if you're only here for a few months, this bar and that bar, there's all kinds, you could, you'll run into that all the time. They'll just want to get a room. I'm like, I'm cool, bro. It's all right. I was like, I don't need sloppy seconds on your girl that's been ran through, even though her husband wasn't allowed in the cab. Sure, man. You sure? I know some. No, that's all right, bud. It's been nice having a beer with you. Good story. That's actually fun and risky. Well, I mean, if you look at it too, it's like he's like, oh yeah, it worked out great for him. But like, what if the guy isn't cool with it? Right? What if the guy was, knocked down the door? I mean, we can always do what ifs, but sometimes things like that aren't so smooth. All right, really quick. I'm sure she didn't stay on, but Jolie Humphrey had a fake friend. She was so ghetto, she blocked me on Instagram. I'm sorry to hear that. Isn't it amazing how much stock people put into being friends on social media? I mean, I've talked about Dunbar's law before. You can only really know 150 people. That's tribes and nomads, like 150 to 200 max, but 150 people. Like if you really are in a community or a tribe, which we don't live in anymore, it's 150. And when people get to like 2,000, 3,000, 1,000, it's like, if you want to say followers like Instagram, but like your friends, you're really diluting what a friend is if it's based on your friend on Instagram. What torture must it be to that guy? I mean, you know what? There's some guys that are happily doormats. You've met him before, probably, Ben. There's guys. I remember being a kid, and my mom had friends, and we'd go to like a dinner or something, and there was a couple guys that were just doormats, man. And my dad would be like, "Oh, I feel sorry for Larry," and the guy was like not a bad guy, but his wife just like ran the show. Fun and risky regarding the closet at the hospital? Something you've experienced before? Well, I was just saying to someone yesterday, I was like, good sex is tension based. You got to build up some tension. That's why people have good makeup sex, but like, because your energy is being risen by the fight or the argument or the tension of leaving. I'm not suggesting people do that. The same thing can be said for when you miss each other. There's tension in missing each other. And so that's what happens when you get in a monotonous, mediocre, stable, safe, comfortable relationship where Every night you guys watch Netflix and you hang out and you're on your phones, and that's comfortable, but there's no tension being built. There's no one, like, someone's just like, all right, let's just be. And that's very easy to get into because humans like comfort, but it's not good for intimacy. So you know what you got to do is fun. That's why you got to tell your partner, let's find a closet in a hospital. Really? Make entire magazine articles over who stopped following someone on Instagram is crazy. I'm glad I didn't grow up during the time of social media. I'm glad I was the last of the Mohegans. Had a pager in high school. That's about it. For 2 years, I think, or a year. That was a big one, having a pager, right? Those are obsolete now. It's crazy, man. I don't even notice when, you know what's surprising is, like, when you have a YouTube channel, like, you can check the analytics, how many people unsubscribe. Like, people unsubscribe, like, especially like a channel like mine. You're out of a breakup. Why would you even want to watch videos like this anymore? Best not to deepen the company ink. It's tough. Because what you don't realize is that familiarity is attractive. Maybe I said that wrong. Familiarity also puts people at ease and comfort. And so in the case of dating women, one of the biggest things with women is they need to feel safe around you, because that's just from the beginning of time that, you know, they got to watch themselves around men being dangerous. And so the familiarity of work, whether you were attracted to each other at first or not, is going to gain steam because you're seeing each other 5 days a week, 6 days a week, 4 days a week. And then you start thinking like, oh, you're looking forward to seeing them. You're gaining that familiarity. And the funny thing is, I've said this before, Rob hasn't commented in a while. Maybe he's asleep. But in a book about CIA agents or FBI agents, they were saying to gain an asset, to gain someone, sometimes instead of approaching them and being like, oh yeah, did you want to work for the CIA, or like trying to convert them, they just keep going in their sphere of influence and running into them, so that person eventually thinks of them as a safe person. Think about that for a minute. If you in your neighborhood, if you go for a walk or you go for a jog 5 days a week and you see the same people, you don't even know them, but you feel like they're a good person because they never attacked you. They've never gone crazy with you, and you've ran into them 30 times. So familiarity builds something special. And if the familiarity is, oh, this person's always got a smile, or this person's this, if the 20th day they don't have a smile, the person will be like, oh, how are you doing? What's wrong? Are you okay? I go for a beach walk pretty regularly where I live. I go alone. And the people I see are usually people that regularly do the same thing. We don't stop and talk, but everyone goes, hey, how you doing? Good morning. Hey. If we run into each other, it's not like we're great friends, but there's a built-in foundation there. We're safe, we're cool, we're comfortable. Now, if you mix in attraction, dynamite, right? And this is why someone can be attracted to someone they work with that they wouldn't be attracted to as much or as hard, no pun intended, as deep, as big, as infatuated as if you found someone attractive at a bar or a coffee shop or just in passing. You see someone passing, you're like, wow, hot, good looking. All right. And then that goes away. But if you see someone at work all the time, and now you're doubling down on that, and now you've established some personality traits about them, you've established how they dress, how they do things, you get more and more comfortable. I feel like that makes it easier. And that's what dating apps don't have. And that's why some people don't like dating apps, because you're going into it blind. It can work out, but you got to build up that familiarity quicker, where most relationships in the past, not all, but a lot of them, there was familiarity from work, from school, from church, from family, friends, that was built in, like, oh, this person's a good person, or this person's this, that, or the other. Where dating app, it's like, their picture looks different, the way they talk, you're not sure of yet. So all those things happen. Doesn't mean dating apps are bad. It just means it's a different ball game. It's all. It's completely different. It takes more time, and there's going to be more strikeouts. There's going to be more one and out, where you're just like, nope, not again. And for some people, they're comfortable with that. They like that because they like the quantity. And then for some other people, it's every time it doesn't work out, they just automatically assume this is hell. I've had quite a few clients like that. Like, I'm just done with them. Done with dating apps. And for some people in certain areas, it's the only option. Like when you're in college, there's parties, there's mutual events, there's a happy hour night for college students. Everyone that goes to college is meeting up with like-minded people in the same age group. It's great. You're always going to meet people that way. But when you get a little bit older, maybe in your 30s, and you got an established job and you work at a bank, if your people that you work with at the bank are all married with kids, okay, so they're not going to really be a network. Otherwise, they just want to do some, let's go to the Olive Garden. I have that when I go home. Sometimes I'm like, oh, this is where you want to go? It's like, you got to change your environments. See where you can reestablish that. Talked about that many times. Sometimes you got it right. Francois saying, I've done it before, but I won't talk about it. Pager, when someone could put 911 or 823. Familiar brings comfort, but it also breeds like attraction a little bit too sometimes. All right, I got to go get lunch. It's been good. It's been grand. I really appreciate you all. If anyone has a closing question, but I think we got the usual suspects on here, minus Kaiser Cersei. Let's see here. Let's see if I missed anyone. Rob, I don't know if you're still on, but thank you. Jennifer Thomas came in for a little cameo. Hope things work out with the LDR. LDRs are tough, man. The problem with them too is that sometimes when people have been in one or two, they actually subliminally seek another one. I don't know why. They look at it like this is what they do. They're comfortable in those relationships, and they settle for them again. Rye Flynn, Ben W. Great trap. I need to sleep. Have a great day. All right. It is curtains. Take care.